Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, it was another disappointing effort on home ice. We'll break down what went wrong in the Sens' 4-1 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes.
And the Sens will start their big road trip in St. Louis up against a team that just fired their head coach. So you can probably guess what was trending in Ottawa.
We'll discuss all that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 937 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and watch the show all day long. You also can know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. It's game time. Today is Wednesday, December 13th, and Pilsy, happy birthday to Vladimir Tarasenko. He's got a revenge game on tap, and frankly, it's a revenge game for the entire Ottawa Senators team because they laid an egg in what was a very, very winnable game against Carolina.
And also, happy birthday to Matt Sogard, too, right? Same birthday as Vladimir Tarasenko. Tough way to kind of leave the home area when you're about to go off onto a big road trip. It's like you're saying goodbye to your family. You want to leave on a good note. The Ottawa Senators left on a terrible note, saying goodbye to their fans at the CTC with that 4-1 loss. And Ross, why did the St. Louis Blues have to fire their head coach ahead of the game up against the Senators? There's two guarantees in the game of hockey. If a guy has just had a baby, he's going to have a big game. He's going to score goals. He's going to get in the mix. And if a team fires their head coach, that new coach bump for their first game leads to almost every single time an automatic win. So the Senators, they're already down. They're already losing this game up against the St. Louis Blues, and it doesn't start for another, 29 hours or something like that. Yeah, so this is not good if you're the Ottawa Senators, especially Ross. And I don't know if we're going to get into it now or later, but especially when you start recapping the longest tenured coaches in the league now that Craig Berube is also off that list.
We will get to that later in the show.
Right.
I'll give you a third guarantee, though, in the game of hockey.
Sure.
Team that scores more goals wins the game.
Yes. Well, I mean, the guarantees I'm talking about, maybe there are some outliers because it's very usual, very typical pattern, Ross, for the team that scores first in a hockey game to also end up winning this one. The Ottawa Senators showed yet again last night, sure, they might score first, but they're never going to score again, and they're going to lose the game.
They must have the worst record when scoring first in the National Hockey League. They've done it 16 times this season, and they've lost 7 of those games. And it's even worse at home because you get so fired up at home when the team scores first. They are 7-5-0 when scoring first at home. That's brutal. Can't happen.
Yeah, especially, Ross, when you score first at home, you have so many advantages to hold that lead. You get the last change, you get the face-off advantage. Like, you got to be able to grasp it and just hold on to it.
I'd love to know how many of those games they were able to extend the lead to 2-0. That, to me, is where they really, it's not often.
No.
And now you look at the CTC, and again, we always have to put that asterisk, and I've taken out the 2 games in Europe because I want this segment to be dedicated to the season ticket holders that go out to Canada weekly, even twice a week, And right now they're seeing a pretty bad product. The Senators are 6-9-0 at the Canadian Tire Center this season. And you're like, oh, wow, that's pretty bad. Yeah, it's even worse when you realize they won the home opener. They won the second game of the season. And they won the third game of the season in dominant fashion. I was stupid enough to tweet during that Washington game that the Senators were going to be a problem for the entire NHL. They are as mediocre as it gets, and it's the same problems that keep sinking this team, Pilsy. The second period, atrocious. They get outscored 3-0 again. They have one scoring opportunity, one scoring chance, according to Natural Stat Trick in the second period. They gave up 8. Like, they fall apart in the second period where adjustments should be at a premium. That, to me, is the sign of a good coach. It's like in the NFL, halftime adjustments. You've seen 20 minutes of what they're going to do. So how are you going to combat that? And it seems like they don't really have an answer because it is the same problem. And people were pointing out fairly in our YouTube comments, yeah, the second period was great against Detroit. Guess what? They had 8 forwards for the second period.
Yeah. And Detroit's missing their top 2 centermen at that point. That's brutal. And Ross, just to kind of, while we're dumping on a bad team, kicking a team that's down in last place, not only in the division, but in the conference, the power play has just been abysmal. And now that we're focusing on the season ticket holders, the power play is 0 for 18 over their past 5 games at the CTC, going 0 for 4 last night. And you talk about those goals being scored in the second period. The Carolina Hurricanes were able to put this one to bed in 1 minute and 21 seconds, as the second and third goal were only 1 minute and 21 seconds apart. So bang, bang, they ended it right there. There was no, at that point, Ross, when that goal scored, game over.
Which game was the worst? Or sorry, which goal against was the worst? Not game, because we could be here all day.
I was going to say, we're opening this box.
No, which goal kind of left the worst taste in your mouth? Because for me, it was Sebastian Aho walking off the wall because of what had happened just previous, where they let I forget who the last guy was, but he walked down Main Street. Korpisalo made a great glove save. You're like, okay, he calmed the waters. Now let's get the puck
there, Ross.
Nachas, right? Yep. Then the next play, they do it again. It was like the Red Sea just parting. And then you had another break, and I just felt bad for Corpy at that point because there's nothing he can do there.
Yeah, that was a tough one for sure, Ross, especially like you mentioned, like right before that goal happens, the second best player on the team is allowed that opportunity. And then the Sens are like, no, hold my beer. Let's allow their best player to now have that opportunity and to have that ability to get that ice so easily. So yeah, I had a really tough time with that one. I did my rant about that on the postcast, so I'll let you pick that as the worst goal. For me, Ross, it was actually that third goal. I mean, Chychrun, bad change, totally sewer Sanderson. The puck squeezes by Sanderson on the point. He has no idea that the other defenseman has changed. He's all alone, and it's Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis. Now they have a 2-on-0. Sandy's trying to chase them. And to make it even worse, Sandy catches up to them, and then Aho passes it backwards through Sandy to Jarvis, and Jarvis still is able to score. Like, that was just, like, Ross, at that point, that's the Carolina Hurricanes playing with their food.
Yeah.
They've already got a 2-1 lead, and now they're like, can we get away with this? A 2-on-0 and passing backwards through the best defenseman on the team to still score? We can. Let's do it. And that was, like I mentioned, 1 minute and 21 seconds after they had just taken the lead to make it 2-1.
And they took that lead the same way they tied the game on a power play. The Sens PK goes 0 for 2. And if you go for season-long statistics, the Ottawa Senators right now have the 31st ranked penalty kill in the National Hockey League. Only the Minnesota Wild are worse. The Senators are 72.4% on the PK. It's just not good enough. And oh wait, the only team worse than them just fired their coach because things were going so bad there. Like even the San Jose Sharks, the Montreal Canadiens, they're both ahead of where the Ottawa Senators are on the PK. And not only that, the power play, they've scored this year. They've shown they know how to put the puck in the net in many different ways. Brady scored on the power play right in front. Giroux scored from all over the place on the power play. They've gotten point shots through from Chychrun and Sanderson, and they've been able to find ways to score on the power play. except on home ice recently, as Ian Mendez pointed out, 0 for their last 17 on home ice on the
18
power
Ross.
play. Oh, right, because they add another. Sure.
Oh.
Pour salt on the wound, Pillsy. Do it.
Yeah, it's absolutely brutal. And that's why I mentioned yesterday on the postcast, I think it's time for a shakeup with the people that run the PK and the power play.
Yeah, I mean,
And they've got guys available to shake up offensively, and they got a guy now available to shake things up defensively. So I feel like it's one of those things, it's only a matter of time, because if they're sticking true to this DJ Smith's not going anywhere, somebody's got to go somewhere. Like, we can't have this consistent losing and then just being like, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. That is the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. And ultimately, for me, Ross, yes, the second period was bad, and it's been bad for the Sens. But for me, the special teams tells the story of this game. You allow 2 for 2 for the Carolina Hurricanes power play, and you go 0 for 4 on your own power play, including 2 back-to-back power plays where the Hurricanes give you those. It's a too many men penalty and then a delay of game. Like, those are gift-wrapped opportunities for you to get your cookies. No cookies for the Ottawa Senators last night.
No cookies, just a pile of coal when it comes to the special teams. The Senators, they lose the face-off battle. They lose the 5-on-5 shot share battle. They tie in blocks. They out-hit their opponent, although our Lalim's Martian was boots on the ground in this game, and he noted, and I could tell on TV too, I
Boots
get
in
it.
the box.
Boots in the box, for sure. Now, with that said, so many flybys. So many flybys. Especially when you're down 2-1 and then 3-1 in the game. I know they ultimately made it 4-1 pretty soon after as well. But like, let's get the glass rattling a little bit. Like, this is where I know he's like the community ambassador, but like Chris Neal should just go in the room and be like, look how I played. The first shift Chris Neal would take every game, he would at least run one guy into the boards, and it's not as good as a goal. I understand that. I'm not a complete dinosaur, but at the same time, if you're at home and struggling the way they have 3 home wins in their last 12 games in Ottawa at the Canadian Tire Center, that is unacceptable. That is not best in class. That's really, really tough on the people that pay to be there and support this team the way they do, the season ticket holders. Many of them listen to the show. Citizens, we love you. We appreciate you guys, and you guys deserve to see better in front of you when you go to these games. So it comes down to how that's going to happen. And at least one way you can get the crowd engaged in a game is by running and making the glass bang, crash, boom. And I know at the end of the game and coming up after the break, we will discuss that penalty shot at the end of the game as a goalie-friendly show, but also as a show that wants to see the captain stay healthy all season. So we'll get into that. But just overall, it feels like the Senators could be playing a more aggressive style out of the gate when they don't have the puck, and at least getting the crowd on their feet and saying, okay, at least, you know what, the effort's there, the physicality's there, and eventually the pucks will go in the back of the net. So that to me is an unfortunate reality that the Senators are in right now. But a roster move has also given us the idea that maybe one of those glass bangers is going to come in here and ruffle feathers on the road trip. We'll get into those conversations. And St. Louis Blues, the next opponent, firing Craig Berube. Yes, that is Stanley Cup champion in 2019, Craig Berube. They've promoted their AHL head coach, but of course, DJ Smith trending on Twitter in Ottawa, in actually all of Canada this morning on Twitter. We'll tell you why after a quick word. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Game Time. Guys, Game Time is the ticketing app of the Locked On Podcast Network, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Now, maybe you're saying, guys, your whole first segment spiel was talking about how bad the games are at the CTC. We don't want to be buying tickets to go watch the Senators play at home. All right, that's fine. Because with Game Time, it's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for not just sports, but music, comedy, and theater near you. Well, you can see a comedy show if you go see the Ottawa Senators, or maybe a tragic theater display at the CTC. But if you're looking for other opportunities to have a fun night out on the town, Game Time is the place for last minute tickets. Forget planning months in advance. If you got the night off and you and some friends, or you and your partner, want to go see some comedy, some theater, a concert, or sports, you got to go to Game Time. Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. In fact, if you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time's going to go ahead and credit you 110% of the difference. You get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy your tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, boom, tickets on your phone. It's that easy. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Shawarma Palace. We love our friends at Shawarma Palace. They're basically family at this point. And at Shawarma Palace, you know that you are going to be fuel-filled. You'll be full, and man, it is as tasty, delicious, and fresh as you could possibly imagine. There's a reason it's Ottawa's #1 shawarma, and there's a reason why they started with 1 store and now have 7. Also available on Uber Eats. You can find them. Their Bank and Hunt Club location is pretty central. You can also find them right downtown, Rideau Street, right by Augusta and Chapel. You can also find them on Bank Street, right by Baseball Town, Gladstone, right in that area. So they are all over the city of Ottawa. They're also in Orleans. They have 7 locations, as well as the St. Laurent Shopping Center. I always get the platter. The chicken platter is to die for, with extra garlic and the whole bit. Comes with fresh pita. It comes with the hummus as well. It comes with the fresh salad and rice, along with your chicken right off of the spit. So go grab a Shawarma Palace platter, or grab the sandwich if you want a quick to-go lunch. For Brandon Piller, he loves his sandwiches over at Shawarma Palace. I'm a big platter guy. Let us know what you like in the comments. But one thing we do know is if you want to eat like a royal, you can go eat at Shawarma Palace today. All right, Pilsy, here we are dissecting another loss for the Ottawa Senators. A loss where the Sens fall below 500 for the 10th time this season. Every time they climb out, they fall right back in to the trap. The Senators got a goal from Josh Norris last game, the first goal of the game, of course. Why wouldn't it be? It was a tip-in shot. Eric Brandstrom takes the shot. Claude Giroux gets an assist, so Giroux maintains his pace. He's at 23 points in 23 games, second on the team in points, behind Tim Stützle. But Pilsy, we got to call a spade a spade. That was Tim Stützle's worst game I think I've seen him play in the last year. Like, I can't remember a game where he's had that many giveaways, been that disengaged in the middle of the ice. And to me, it's clear that he's playing injured. Like, I don't know what the problem is.
The tape has been on his back all season, where we didn't really see that before. I don't know if I would go as far to say he's injured. I mean, he still has 26 points in 23 games, leads the team. So he's still putting together a nice season, seemingly quietly. But yeah, that was a tough one for Timmy. Just frustrating, running into Brady Tkachuk, getting knocked on his ass, missing the puck on the start of a breakout for that power play, smashing his stick on the ice and smashing the door. He was full on talking to himself on the bench, looking at the blade of his stick, like, did someone mess with my stick? Like, what's going on here? It was not a great night for Tim Stützle, that's for sure.
No, -2 and went 33% in the dot, 2 shots on goal. I mean, these aren't like it's not really it's more just kind of the vibe that I got from watching the game. It was just like, I don't know, just did not feel like a good one. But hey, how many times does he have bad games back to back? So I'm going to be watching Timmy, I'm going to be watching Norris, and I'm going to be watching Tkachuk in the game against St. Louis. Of course, it's a homecoming for Brady Tkachuk, but let's get to that penalty shot. It's 4-1 in the game at that point. There's about 4.5 minutes left. Brady gets a breakaway, and Kochetkov, I mean, check the game notes on him. You see even the reason why he gets the penalty shot. Now, I will say, as a goalie, that's a clever move, because he didn't throw his stick.
No, he dropped it.
He dropped it, but he dropped it strategically.
Yeah,
And
he dropped it in a way that if the puck was trickling towards the line, as
Which
it was, it would hopefully stop it. Now that didn't happen. They kind of blew the play dead before it crossed the line. And then it ended up getting cleared anyways. But yeah, that's a weird way to have a penalty shot be awarded. Shout out the refs though, being right on top of it and calling it right away. But there was also another weird part of this penalty shot. Apparently, DJ Smith said the linesman went up to the bench and said anybody can take the shot, which has never been true.
No, it is true, because that's what you can do when a player closes his hand on the puck in the crease and it's a penalty shot.
Okay, for that, yes, that is fair. You can pick one, but
it's the same thing, because it wasn't. So here, when a penalty shot is normally called, like let's say that Brady Tkachuk was hooked on that breakaway, right?
Yes.
That player was fouled. That player needs to take the shot.
That's how I've always known it. Yeah.
I'm under the impression that that's not what the call was. The call was that the goalie threw his stick, which to me would mean that anybody can take the shot.
Okay, yeah. So that is a differencing there, which makes sense. Yeah, that's fair. But then, so the linesman tells DJ Smith this, and then the ref then comes and says, no, what are you doing putting Josh Norris out here? Like, Brady's got to shoot it. And then at that point, Ross, I already knew it was a failed attempt, because then Josh Norris is getting ready and Brady's sitting there. And then now it's like, oh, no, you have to take it. Not like, oh, you get to take this, or you can pick the player you want to take this. Like, Brady wasn't chosen to take that. And Brady is not really a great shootout or penalty shot guy anyways. Now, on breakaways where he has a defenseman chasing him, he's good. But all alone, it doesn't translate for him.
Pilsy, he's 0 for 6 in his career on shootouts.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. So the eye test matches there. And I don't know, if I'm Brady Tkachuk, coming in with that much speed doesn't make a lot of sense for me. Like, he's not a speed guy. I don't know. I just felt like he was doomed from the start. Like, this was a play that just was not set up for success in my mind.
So he comes in full tilt, and Peter Tkachuk comes out and goes full Dominic Hasek. I thought it was a trip. I think that we discussed it in length on the postcast, so we don't need to hash it out completely the way we did last night. But it's much like a slide tackle in soccer, I believe, where it's a risky play, and if you get the ball / puck, then it should be a fair play. And if you touch the puck first with your stick, then if Brady flies over you, hey, you played the puck.
Yep.
But if you don't touch the puck at all and the guy trips over you, it's a trip. Yeah. Now, I don't know what happens there, if it's a 2-minute penalty or if you retake the shot.
No, like I said, you get a 2-on-0 penalty shot next. That's how they should do it.
Because, I mean, if you're tripped on a breakaway or a penalty shot, then that's a penalty shot. So it's an awful situation. How did you feel about how Brady handled it?
Well, before we get to that, if there's no repercussions for tripping a guy on a penalty shot, hell yeah, if I'm a goalie, I'm tripping him. Why wouldn't you?
The counter to that, and again, hashtag goalie friendly show, keep your head up when you're coming down. Because if Brady, like, it's not like he was so close and he just poke checked. Like,
oh, he was almost at the hash marks. Yeah, and that's the thing. Tkachuk made the decision. He was already out challenging past his crease, and then he made the quick decision, which I don't hate as a goalie. You got to look for your moments. Like, as a goalie, I like being the one that makes the aggressive move rather than waiting for the move. So he sees an opportunity where Brady has his head down. He's going too fast to adjust. Yeah, go for the poke check. But he goes for the poke check, misses it completely. Like, does not get the puck at all. Completely trips up Brady Tkachuk, and there's no repercussion for that. So if I'm Tkachuk, if I'm Brindamore, I'm patting him on the back after being like, nice job negating that penalty shot. And now, not only that, you've got Brady pissed off now. Now you've got Brady that's just taking a 10-minute penalty. He's out of the game. We can cruise to a even easier victory than we've already done. So they got to work on some sort of rule where there's a repercussion, rather, for goalies that do that, so that they're not incentivized to just do that all the time.
I like the thought process of Tkachuk as someone who would probably do something similar.
Yeah.
But I also understand Brady's frustration that's 100%. A dangerous play. He's coming in with a lot of speed. Yeah. Tkachuk would be like, I didn't tell you to go that fast. Like, go as fast as you can be in control of yourself. So it's one of those where it sucks, but in a 3-goal game, I think is probably where Brady's like, are you serious? Like, even if I score this goal, we're down 2 with 3.5, 4 minutes left in the game. Like, what are you doing, dude? Now, where I have not even an issue really, but where I think things could have been different, I'll tell you after a quick word. We'll get into that, and we'll also get to the coaching carousel. The third coach gassed this season. What does it mean for the Ottawa Senators? That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper. Guys, Sleeper is the official daily fantasy app for the Locked On Podcast Network, and for a good reason. If you want to win 100 times your money, 100 times, you could play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. As the official app of our network, like I mentioned, it's not just hockey you can play daily fantasy sports for football, basketball, baseball, college football, and more. What I love about this app is it's so easy to use. They got a group chat where you can talk smack to your buddies, let them know you got a big week lined up, and your entries can be made in under a minute. Time is money. You want to get those entries in as quick as possible, because with studs like Brady Tkachuk, Claude Giroux, Jake Sanderson, and Drake Matheson, all you need to do is pick the right stats for these stars, like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Sens fans. 100 times payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for detail. Available only to our friends in the States for now.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. The Glebe Central Pub is right in the heart of the Glebe. 779 Bank Street is where you can find them. And when you head there, make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. They're great people there. They do a great job. They've also made sure that they do interactive events to get people together. Because isn't that what bars are all about? Making sure people have a good time in each other's company. They've got the Arsenal supporter bar. So every morning in the weekend or every Arsenal game day, it's such a blast there in the morning. They've got the Ottawa Atletico Ottawa. Thank you. That team, they've got little plan there where they actually like pre there and then all like parade to the game because we're just steps away from Lansdowne. But of course, it's hockey season. It's Senator season. And just last Thursday, I was riding the Glebe Central Pub shuttle. Easiest way to get to the game. It leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the puck drops, and you can buy your tickets online, glebecentralpub.com, hit the Sens shuttle bus, and then scroll down until you see the logos of the teams. It says $17. Just click right there. They'll give you a bracelet when you get to the game or to the bar, and then you just hop on the bus. Sue gets you there, and we got there right at the end of warm-up. So there's time to get your beverages in, get your food, and get to your seat in time to watch the opening puck drop. So you never have to worry about that at the Glebe Central Pub. Head there today, 779 Bank Street. Check out the Send shuttle and make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. It's the Glebe Central Pub. The vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pillsy. Okay, I got to get right back to that point because I do feel strongly about this. Look,
let's hear it. Go off.
If Brady Tkachuk wants to go off on Kochetkov, I'm cool with that. Especially in a game where it's out of reach at that point. They're down 4-1. It's out of reach.
Oh, yeah.
My issue is making everybody in the arena know that you're going to go after him. Right? Like, if you want to have a word with him on your way back to the bench, he didn't get any penalty for that. He just let him know. He's like, that, be ready. Like, that was not cool. Where I have come on, is when he goes from the bench back for round 2 of just talking. Like, and I feel like Brady, he's lucky that he didn't get hurt on that play. That is a 220-pound man going hard into the end boards.
And Ross, a lot of people on social media, Sens fans on Instagram and Twitter, I've been seeing this. When there's a penalty shot at home and it's your captain taking it, you're going to start filming it, right? So people are filming it. On TV, you didn't get a sense of how hard he went into the boards. But from the fan videos from the stands filming it, you realize how hard he goes into the boards. He is flying. If that was Josh Norris going that fast into the boards, he's done. He's cooked. So luckily, Brady Tkachuk doesn't get hurt there, let alone seriously hurt. But that's a tough play. That's a tough play.
Somebody just wrote on our YouTube comments, Jay Houston, saying in his beer league, a guy broke his neck on a similar play. Like,
that's the thing. Yeah, it's very easy to do because when you're going that fast and you're just going, your body's flailing into the boards like that, it's brutal. Now, to hop onto your point there, Ross, look, I'm gonna have the same thought process or explanation as I did for what happened to David Perron. I'm not excusing it. I'm not justifying it. There's only one explanation for how Brady acted. He got his wires crossed, and he didn't give a damn what was the best way to go about this, what way he could actually get revenge, who he was going to get revenge on, or anything. That's a guy going purely off emotions, and he's sick and tired of losing. He's sick and tired of leading this team to losses, and he's just trying to blow, or not trying, he's blowing off steam. It's coming out of his ears at that point, like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Like, he just cannot handle himself. So for me, Ross, and I think I mentioned this on the postcast, I'm more kind of disappointed that DJ Smith and the coaching staff let him go out right after that. Like, sit him on the bench, let him cool off for a bit. But ultimately, it's a moot point, because whether Brady was in this game for the rest of this or not didn't matter. They were losing this game.
And that's why this stat doesn't tell the whole story, but it is still hilarious to see on paper. The goal stat does matter. I'll get to that. But in losses this year, in 12 losses, Brady Tkachuk has 58 penalty minutes. And in 11 wins, he has 4 penalty minutes, 2 minor penalties. But as people will remember, because I would like to break that down further, because the numbers are jumping off the page, but we know he's had, 10-minute misconduct against Florida, 10-minute misconduct in last night's game, just to get out, right? So the losses, these 10s pile up pretty fast. I would like to know the minor penalty differential, because he's known to have taken some bad penalties over the last couple of years. So I'm curious to see that, because only 2 minor penalties in 11 wins, like, to me, that I thought that was going to be, 10 minutes or 8 minutes at least. But that to me is a huge positive for Brady Tkachuk. But again, Brady in 12 losses only has 3 goals. And in 11 wins, he has 10 goals. Okay. Like, he doesn't have to be a goal a game guy always, but that is something that I'm going to be curious to see if that's just a trend for a bit of the season, or if that's going to continue on here throughout. But what better place for him to play his next game than in his hometown? Like, this feels like a must-have game for Brady Tkachuk. And tomorrow on the show, we'll get into the, full breakdown, full preview of the game tomorrow night in St. Louis, the start of a back-to-back on the road, a tough back-to-back, because they got the new coach bump they got to deal with in St. Louis. And then the Dallas Stars are a wagon. They're a wagon. That's the one way to put that team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it hopefully going back to St. Louis helps out Brady Tkachuk here, but I think we can segue this into the new coach talk. Craig Berube, by all accounts, a great head coach. Like, you talk about the season they had in 2019, where they're in dead last in January 1st, and they go all the way to the Cup and win it.
So you're saying there's a chance
that St. Louis Blues team will give all 32 teams a hope and a belief that at January 1st, they can still get this done. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? God, no, it's not. But the thing is, Ross, and I've been trying to kind of follow along with the story. Obviously, the Sens playing the Blues next. So I've been listening to the press conferences. I read the Athletic that the St. Louis Blues guy did. And essentially what Armstrong is saying, the general manager, is that he didn't give the players a heads up about this. The players were shocked about it. He was just saying, look, my job is to manage the players. They'll play for whatever coach I give them, really was kind of his attitude. And he was like, my job is to manage and to make sure that the right people are in the right places. And he felt like with the effort, especially he referenced 2 games, one against Arizona, one against Buffalo, where he just wasn't seeing their top guys, their guys that are signed to big dollars and long contracts. He wasn't seeing them execute and play the way he thought they were able to and have played in the past, and the way that he's constructed this roster to play. And for that reason, he said, we got to make a move here. We got to make a change. And they bring in Drew Bannister. And I was doing a little research on this guy, Ross. This guy would have been a classic candidate for the Ottawa Senators. He's from Belleville, Ontario. You'll love to see that. And the last team he played on in North America, the Binghamton Senators in 2009, 2010. And this guy's played all over Finland, Russia, Germany for like 5 years. Then he even played in England and Scotland to finish off his career. So this guy's got a lot of experience here. He was the head coach of their minor league team, Bannister, and now he's going to be the interim coach. And I wouldn't be shocked, Ross, if that new coach bump and the Sens just being the Sens cruises the St. Louis Blues to a victory tomorrow night. So that's what you're seeing. These franchises like Minnesota and Edmonton, those are teams that had expectations, right? And so things weren't going their way. They fired their coach right away to stop the digging and stop getting in a bad position so they can hopefully have enough time to crawl back out of the basement. And the Edmonton Oilers are doing that. They're on an 8-game win streak. They're doing it. The St. Louis Blues, this was not a team that, or at least maybe Blues fans would argue, but at least from my vantage point, this was not a team that had expectations. This is a team that's retooling this year, trying to figure out their identity, especially you lose Ryan O'Reilly, Pietrangelo. Like they haven't really been able to get that identity back with those guys leaving. And even they are saying, Craig Berube has been our guy. He's had a great tenure here, but we got to make a change. The Ottawa Senators are the only franchise that is sitting here with a long tenured coach that hasn't had any success, that don't feel the need to make a change. And the fans are going to get sick of it. Look, I'm not a chant fire DJ guy. I don't like going for a guy's job. And DJ Smith is a good guy. The players are still the effort is there. I don't think he's lost the room yet. I don't think so, especially reading that Mendez article where he kind of brought them all together and he didn't kind of whip them into shape or anything like that. It seems like this is still something that can work. But to make no changes at all, now, sure, you can say you brought in Jacques Martin, you're bringing in Daniel Alfredsson, that helps. But all you're doing is kind of coddling this coaching staff, being like, oh, you're having a tough time here. Here's a little help. Here's a little boost. It's like that old saying, give a man a fish, he's got food for a day. Give him a fishing rod, and now he can fish on his own. The Ottawa Senators are just giving little fishes here and there just to help out just for a day or two. They got to make a big change that shows accountability and shows that what's happening right now cannot continue. Because right now the message they're sending to their fans and the season ticket holders at the CTC is, this is okay. We'll ride this out. It can't continue like this.
No, I don't think so either. But at that point, it's like, how late can you wait? Right? Is there going to be a point where if you get towards, is it just going to be like a Mark Crawford coming in for the last 12 games to mop it up? Obviously not him, but that style where it's just like, are you playing mop up duty?
At that point, there's no point in that, Ross. Like, I think the reason you would make a coaching change now, which is what these other teams are doing, is to try to stop the bleeding and try to at least think you have enough time to make it back. And that time's running out. Like, I don't know about you, Ross, but I would say if they don't make a coaching change, whether it's the head or both or one assistant coach by like come 2024, if there's not a new coach in for that new year, it's too late, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm reading some of those Jeremy Rutherford quotes coming out from the Doug Armstrong press conference. A lot of people liked Craig Berube as well in St. Louis, and Doug Armstrong being like, hey, this was tough. I have a ton of respect for Craig Berube, and he, obviously what he brought to them in a championship, but also you look at the Senators now, and it's like, hey, he's the 6th longest serving head coach in the National Hockey League, and the guys who have been there longer than him, like you could have even said this before, that they all had like either cups or very deep playoff runs. Yeah. Rod Brindamore definitely never got swept, but like with him, like at least that he has these guys as a consistent contender, even though they'd lost 4 in a row before coming in and being slump busters in Ottawa. It's just like, yeah, it's almost like we all know what has to happen, but everybody's too scared for instability. Yeah. The only thing that I would say is, will you get a longer list of candidates in the summer? And if that's the case, then is Jacques Martin a guy who you could, I don't know what his contract is, I don't know how long he signed for, but is it something where he could coach the rest of the year and then go back to this same role, right? Because I would actually be against them hiring a coach like a John Hines type thing in Minnesota, where you're now the head coach indefinitely.
Yep.
I think that Ottawa, I think they should regroup this summer and decide who the head coach is, but that doesn't mean finish the year with DJ necessarily. Right?
Yeah,
It's
and
a
that's
delicate
the thing.
balance.
It definitely is. And you're 100% right. The off season is the ideal time to hire a new coach. And that's fine. And I've been a guy that's said among all the fire DJ chants, that's cool if you want that, but you better have a better option if that's your plan. That's been my mindset all along. The only issue is, Ross, if that's your mindset, that's fine. I get that. That's an efficient way to think for the future. But that means you've punted this season. And you can't be punting these years away. Like, Jake Sanderson is on his entry-level deal. You've got Jake Sanderson making under $1 million. Like, these are the years and the windows where you look at, and especially in a salary cap world, where you're like, we have to take advantage of our number one defenseman on an entry-level deal. Like, that's how this league is constructed, is to give you those opportunities where you can have an advantage like that. And the Sens are just squandering it away. And I think that's the tough thing, Ross, is, it takes a while. When you're rebuilding. You're going to suck. It's going to happen. And then you try to take a step out of the rebuild. Maybe that was 2020, 2021. And then you try to take another step. That's 21, 22. And then last year, 22, 23, like, that was where everyone was like, hey, we're done losing and trying to acquire draft picks. We got to make that next step. Now, this is like, they should have already taken multiple steps, and they're not there yet. So to punt on another season and not take a step, you're setting this team back so much, and you're just wasting time. And that's the issue I have here, Ross, is our mantra this season has been playoffs or bust, no excuses. And to punt on a year where you're expecting to make playoffs is sad. It's sad.
And the players are clearly getting frustrated. And
yeah. How much more of this can Brady Tkachuk take?
Yeah. It's really, really frustrating. Now, I don't think that, anyways, I think that the ownership change and that can maybe buy a little extra time with the players, because they're seeing changes off the ice. Like, they're not getting the warmed up quesadillas as post game food anymore, right? They got the chef. They redid the lounge. I've heard the players are seeing things improve. So I don't think this is something where, like, oh, we're losing, like, I want out. I think that they are bought in to the process. And I think
they're all locked up in long-term deals.
But they can still ask for a trade, right? Like, that is the trump card that they have. But if Andlauer's public persona is what it is behind closed doors, which I believe it is, I guarantee you that he's got the group bought in more than just this year. I think he sees a long-term vision, and I think he's verbalizing that to these players, that he wants to be a part of the thing. But at one point, and again, this is the other decision. And I think coaching, again, we've already talked about that ad nauseum. The other option is to pick one guy in the room who's been there for a long time and make that trade. But it's an off-season thing again. But shake up what has been, like, I was thinking about this last night, and I want people in the comments to let us know as well. Who's the last player from the perceived core to be moved? And I know the core kind of shifts as time goes on, but I have a name that I think was the last one. But to you, who's the last player who was a part of the core fabric of this team to get moved?
I guess Pajot.
No, I think a little bit later than that. I was going to go with Nick Paul.
Okay, yeah.
As a guy who's been here for a while. But now, like, that's almost 2 full years where, like, what you see is what you get. And they've added to it with Tarasenko and Giroux and other guys coming in and Chychrun. But it's just like they haven't had to deal with, like, hey, you're not playing well here. You got to go.
Yeah.
If you're here, you're here. Nobody's been like, hey, and Nick Paul didn't get traded because of that. It was because they couldn't agree to a contract extension. I get it. But just to shake up the room a little bit and give him a shake. But you also shake up the room by moving on with a coach. And this coach has coached over 300 games with the team, and they have a 460 win percentage or points percentage. Not even win, points. And you look at, like, the other coaches, and, like, I've gone to this Wikipedia page way too much.
Oh, no.
NHL, like, the longest serving head coaches in the National Hockey League. John Cooper, Tampa Bay Lightning. 2 Stanley Cups, 4 Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah.
Mike Sullivan, 2 Stanley Cups. Colorado, Jared Bednar. He coached them to the worst season in like NHL history almost.
It was so bad.
No respect to the inaugural Senators. I know you guys suck too. 10 wins. I've never heard that actually. No respect instead of no disrespect. All right. So Jared Bednar turns that ship around, wins the cup.
Yes.
Rod Brindamore, as you've heard from Tom Dundon, the owner for the Carolina Hurricanes, he's got a lifetime contract there. But he also has a .661 win percentage.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Then Todd McClellan, who I think is the most comparable to Ottawa in the sense that they rebuilt at the same time. Now, what they did that Ottawa couldn't afford to do with their ownership was keep paying their most important players throughout that.
Kopitar, Doughty. Yep.
Exactly. Like, imagine the Sens rebuild if they kept Mark Stone, right? Just for an example, just the one. And I know the Erik Karlsson trade, they fell ass backwards into winning that with how bad the San Jose Sharks were. But I'm just talking about that caliber of player, just keeping a couple.
Agreed.
And seeing what that can do to help get guys out. Now, I know the situations, there is some difference, but that to me is the most like similar trajectory. But now look at this season. The Kings are elite. The Kings look great. And Todd McClellan was also a coach that had been much more veteran than DJ Smith, right? He's coached over 1,100 games.
Yeah.
So a little bit different. I'm just saying that if you can even go so far as the coaches that have been hired right after DJ Smith as guys who have turned teams around. New Jersey Devils with Lindy Ruff. Sheldon Keefe picked up a pretty good team, and he obviously got them over the one hump. There's still 3 more after that. I know Leaf fans like to forget there's stuff beyond round 1, but he's been, even on the hot seat himself. So it's interesting to me. And then every other head coach after that, Pilsy, was hired in 2021 or more recently. Like, there is so much turnover in coaching in the National Hockey League, but the Ottawa Senators just they aren't subscribing to that for now. We'll see if it changes. Any final thoughts on today's show?
No.
I have a final question for you then. If you don't if you don't have thoughts, I'll ask you a question. 5-game road trip, back-to-back, St. Louis, Dallas, then Sunday night in Vegas, Tuesday night in Arizona, wrapping up next Thursday in Colorado. How many wins do they need for you to feel confident coming back home?
They need 3.
3-2 would be good for you?
I mean, not good, but
I think 3-2 would actually be like come back 500.
Well, when you're looking at the caliber of teams they're playing, 3-2 would be good. But as far as like actually gaining some ground in the standings, it wouldn't do much for you here. Like Ross, up against St. Louis with the new coach bump, I don't like that hockey voodoo. I don't like the feeling for the Sens there. Then on the second half of that back-to-back, you go to Dallas, one of the best teams in the league. Then you go to Vegas, one of the best teams in the league.
And Ottawa, has Ottawa ever won a game in Vegas? I don't think they have.
In Vegas, probably not.
I don't think they have. I will check right now.
You might be looking at the Arizona Coyotes and thinking that's a time where you can feast, but the Coyotes have been good this year, and especially like they're 8-5 at home. They've been getting it done at Mullet Arena, and then to finish it off, you get to go to Colorado, one of the most successful teams that has things clicking right now. Like the only real positive I can see from this road trip is it gets them the hell away from the CTC, because they got to get out of here. Hopefully you bond on the road. You have some good experiences going out with the boys. Maybe Vegas. That's a time where you can turn things around. I don't know what to expect here, but I'm not feeling good going into this road trip at all.
Do you know what the Sens' overall record is against Vegas?
How many games?
10.
I'm going to say 1-8-1.
They're 1-9-0 against Vegas.
I was close. Yeah. Wow. I shouldn't have given them that loser point. They
have 1 win in Vegas. And you know who scored the game-winning goal with 12 minutes left?
It's going to be someone random as hell.
Alex Burrows.
Yeah. Okay.
The game-winning goal the last and only time that the Ottawa Senators won in Vegas.
Cool.
Mark Stone scored in that game for the Ottawa Senators. Burrows assisted by Erik Karlsson and Max McCormick. That's the goal that gave Ottawa their only win in Vegas, to tell you how long it's been. You know what? I'll say they need to win 4 of their next 6, because I'm going to count that game at home against Pittsburgh on the Saturday going into the Christmas break. That would put them a game above 500 going into the Christmas break. Maybe they'll forget about the 500 thing coming out of Christmas then into that little 3-game stretch there before New Year. So, hey, lots of time to break that down. You let us know, though, in the comments, how many wins are you expecting, not hoping, or both, on this road trip? This road trip through the desert, out west, and up into the mile-high city. It all starts tomorrow against the St. Louis Blues. We'll be here for a full preview tomorrow on Locked On Senators. For today, though, we say goodbye. If you want more from us, make sure to check out yesterday's interview with Mark Methot. Always a fun conversation with Meth, his 17th time on the show. Also, tweet at him. Let him know that you appreciate him coming on with us, because we know that the numbers tell the story. So make sure you know that he knows that we appreciate him coming on. For today, though, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.